But let me back up because this didn't start at the funeral. It started 28 years ago, the day my sister was born. I was 5 when Gabriella arrived. I remember standing on my tiptoes to peer into her bassinet, my mother's hand gently pushing me back. "Careful, Claire," she whispered. "Don't wake your sister." That became the theme of my childhood. Don't wake Gabriella. Don't upset Gabriella. Don't outshine Gabriella. Growing up in our Chicago brownstone, I learned early how to make myself small. Gabriella got the larger bedroom with the bay windows. I got the one facing the alley. Her walls were painted lavender at her request. Mine stayed the builder's beige. When she made the cheer squad in middle school, Dad bought her a car at 16. When I graduated valedictorian, they took us to dinner at Olive Garden and spent the meal discussing Gabriella's upcoming spring formal. I didn't complain. I learned to carry my achievements quietly, like secrets I kept from my own family. "Full ride to Northwestern?" I mentioned it once. They nodded, then asked if I could pick up Gabriella from her friend's house. "Graduated summa cum laude?" Mom said, "That's nice, honey," then launched into a story about Gabriella's marketing internship. After college, I worked 70-hour weeks as a financial analyst. I lived in a studio apartment with a radiator that clanked and neighbors who fought at 2 in the morning. I saved every dollar I could, skipping lunches, walking 40 minutes to work instead of taking the train, wearing the same 3 blazers on rotation. Meanwhile, Gabriella bounced from job to job. Marketing coordinator, social media manager, brand consultant. Each title lasted 6 months before she'd quit, claiming the company didn't value her creativity. Each time, Mom and Dad would nod sympathetically and slide her rent money across the dinner table. What they didn't know, what I never told them, was that I'd been helping too. When Gabriella's car broke down and needed a $3,000 transmission repair, I paid it. When she got evicted from her apartment for missing 3 months of rent, I covered the debt. When she maxed out her credit cards and couldn't make minimum payments, I transferred money and told her to tell our parents she'd worked it out herself. Over 5 years, I gave her $47,000. She never said thank you. She never acknowledged it. And I never expected her to, because that's what I thought family did. You help. You stay quiet. You don't keep score. 2 years ago, I bought my condo. A 2-bedroom corner unit in River North with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the skyline that made my chest ache every morning. I'd saved for 8 years. Put down 40%. Furnished it slowly, carefully, choosing each piece like it mattered, because it did. It was the first thing in my life that was entirely mine. I didn't tell my parents the purchase price. When they visited once in 2 years, Mom walked through, ran her finger along the marble countertop and said, "Must be nice. Gabriella's apartment doesn't even have a dishwasher." I swallowed the response building in my throat. I wanted to say, Gabriella spent more on brunch in the last year than I spent furnishing this entire place. I wanted to say, I earned this. Instead, I offered her tea and changed the subject. "Last month my grandmother died. She was 91, sharp as ever, and the only person in my family who ever really saw me. At family dinners, while everyone fawned over Gabriella's latest venture or outfit or story, Grandma would sit beside me and ask about my work, my life, my dreams. She'd squeeze my hand under the table when Mom made another comment about me being too serious or married to my job. The funeral was held at Oak Ridge Memorial, a historic chapel with stained glass windows and wooden pews that creaked under the weight of mourners. 49 people came. Colleagues from Grandma's teaching days. Neighbors from her building. Distant cousins I hadn't seen in years. My parents sat in the front row, Gabriella between them, her black dress designer and her tears performative. I sat 2 rows back. After the service, everyone gathered in the reception hall. The air smelled like coffee and lilies. People spoke in hushed tones, balancing small plates of finger sandwiches and fruit. I stood near the windows, watching the gray Chicago sky, when I felt my mother's hand on my shoulder. "Claire, we need to talk." Her voice was tight, controlled. Dad stood beside her, his expression unreadable. Gabriella hovered behind them, her eyes red-rimmed but alert. "Now?" I asked quietly. "Mom, this isn't the time." "It's exactly the time," she said, her voice rising slightly. A few heads turned. "Family needs to stick together. Especially now." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "What are you talking about?" Dad cleared his throat. "Your sister's going through a difficult time. She lost her job 2 weeks ago, and her landlord is raising her rent by $800 a month. She can't afford to stay where she is. I looked at Gabriella. She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, saying nothing. I'm sorry to hear that, I said carefully. But what does this have to do with? You have a second bedroom, Mom interrupted. Her tone shifted, becoming firmer, more certain. You have space. More space than you need. And Gabriella needs somewhere stable while she figures things out. You want her to move in with me? The question came out sharper than I intended. Temporarily, Dad said quickly. Just until she gets back on her feet. I opened my mouth to respond, but Mom wasn't finished. Actually, she said, and her voice changed again. Louder now, performative. We think it would be better if you just gave Gabriella the condo. Signed it over to her. You're doing fine financially. You can buy another place. She needs this more than you do. The room fell silent. I felt every eye turn toward us. My mother had raised her voice deliberately, ensuring everyone heard. Ensuring I'd be shamed into compliance in front of my grandmother's mourners. You want me to give Gabriella my condo, I repeated slowly. It's what Grandma would have wanted, Mom said, and I watched her eyes well with fresh tears. Family taking care of family. Not hoarding resources while your sister suffers. My hands started shaking. I pressed them against my sides. No. Excuse me. Dad's voice was ice. I said no. I'm not giving Gabriella my home. Gabriella's face crumpled. Claire, please. I have nowhere to go. How can you be so selfish? Selfish. The word tasted bitter. I've given you thousands of dollars over the years. I've covered your rent, your car, your credit cards. You're lying, Gabriella said quickly, her tears vanishing for just a moment. I never asked you for anything. You didn't have to ask. I just gave. Mom stepped forward, her voice shaking with rage. How dare you make this about money at your grandmother's funeral? How dare you throw supposed generosity in your sister's face when she's struggling? I'm not throwing anything. I'm stating facts. Facts. Mom's voice cracked into a scream. The fact is that you have everything and your sister has nothing. The fact is that you're standing here in your designer dress, refusing to help family. You're heartless, Claire. Heartless. The room was dead silent. Someone's coffee cup clinked against a saucer. I could feel the weight of 49 pairs of eyes watching me, judging me, seeing exactly what my mother wanted them to see. A selfish daughter who refused to help her struggling sister. Something in me went very still. Very calm. I turned and walked across the room. The crowd parted as I moved toward the corner where Mr. Harrison stood, my grandmother's estate attorney, a tall man in his 60s with silver hair and kind eyes. He'd been watching the entire exchange with an expression I couldn't quite read. Mr. Harrison, I said quietly. May I speak with you? He nodded slowly and reached for his briefcase. The leather was worn, expensive, the kind that gets better with age. He set it on a nearby table and opened it with 2 deliberate clicks. My mother's voice carried across the room. Claire, what are you doing? Mr. Harrison pulled out a folder. Then another. He looked at me and I saw something in his expression. Respect, maybe? Or recognition? Should I? He asked quietly. I nodded. He cleared his throat. The room fell silent again, but this time it was different. Anticipatory. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Harrison said, his voice carrying the authority of 40 years practicing law. I apologize for the interruption, but given the conversation that just occurred, I believe there's information the family should know. My mother's face went pale. My father's jaw tightened. Mrs. Patterson, he said, looking directly at my mother, you just demanded that your daughter Claire give her condominium to your daughter Gabriella, citing family obligation and suggesting it's what the deceased would have wanted. That's right, Mom said, but her voice wavered. I see. He opened the first folder. Then you should know that 6 months ago Mrs. Eleanor Patterson, the deceased, came to my office to update her will. She was very specific about her wishes. He pulled out a document. She left Claire her entire estate. The house in Evanston. Her savings and investment accounts, totaling approximately $340,000. And a letter. Gabriella gasped. Mom grabbed the edge of a nearby table. She left nothing to Gabriella? Dad's voice was barely a whisper. She left Gabriella $5,000 with a note that said, I hope this helps you start building something real. He paused. But that's not all I need to share. He opened the second folder and pulled out what looked like bank statements. Mrs. Patterson also hired a private investigator 8 months ago. She was concerned about family dynamics and wanted to understand the full picture before making her final decisions. My heart hammered in my chest. The investigation revealed that over the past 5 years, Claire has transferred $47,000 to Gabriella. Car repairs, rent payments, credit card debt, medical bills. All of it documented. He held up the pages. Claire never told anyone. Never asked for repayment. Never mentioned it. Every eye in the room turned to me. Then to Gabriella. That's... Gabriella started, but nothing followed. Mr. Harrison wasn't finished. The investigation also revealed that Mr. and Mrs. Patterson have given Gabriella approximately $93,000 over the same period. Rent assistance, car payments, emergency loans that were never repaid. Dad's face flushed red. Mom looked like she might be sick. Mrs. Patterson was very clear in her letter to me, Mr. Harrison continued. She wrote, Claire has carried this family's weight in silence. She's never asked for recognition or thanks. Meanwhile, Gabriella has taken from everyone and given nothing back. I will not reward that pattern with my life's work. He closed the folder. She also specifically instructed me that if anyone, and she emphasized anyone, tried to pressure Claire into giving away her assets after her death, I was to intervene immediately and make these facts public. The silence in the room was suffocating. Mom's voice came out small, broken. Eleanor never said anything to us. No, Mr. Harrison agreed. She didn't. She told me she tried for years to talk to you about the favoritism, about the imbalance. You didn't want to hear it. He looked at me. Claire, your grandmother wanted you to know that she saw you. She saw everything. And she was incredibly proud of you. My eyes burned, but I didn't let the tears fall. He reached into his briefcase one more time and pulled out a business card. She also asked me to give you this. It's the contact information for the title company that handled her Evanston property. She wanted you to know that your condo is protected by a trust she set up 3 months ago. Even if you wanted to give it away, which she suspected your family might pressure you to do, the trust prevents any transfer of ownership for 5 years. I took the card with shaking hands. She protected you, he said quietly. Even after death. I turned to face my family. My mother was crying, but they weren't the performative tears from earlier. These were real, broken, ashamed. My father wouldn't meet my eyes. Gabriella stared at the floor, her face blotchy and red. I'm going home, I said. My voice didn't shake. To my condo. My home. The one I worked 8 years to buy. The one Grandma made sure you could never take from me. I walked toward the exit. The crowd parted again, but this time I felt their eyes differently. Not judging. Witnessing. As I reached the door, I heard Mr. Harrison's voice one last time. Mrs. Patterson, Mr. Patterson, Gabriella. I'll need to schedule a formal will reading. My secretary will contact you. I suggest you bring a lawyer if you plan to contest anything, though I should warn you that Eleanor's will is ironclad. I stepped out into the gray Chicago afternoon. The air was cold, clean. For the first time in 28 years, I felt the weight lift from my shoulders. My phone buzzed 3 hours later. A text from my mother. We need to talk. I deleted it. Then another from Gabriella. I'm sorry. I didn't know you'd helped me so much. I stared at it for a long moment, then typed back. You did know. You just didn't care. I blocked her number. That night I stood in my condo looking out at the Chicago skyline. The city lights reflected off the glass, turning everything gold and silver. My home. My space. Protected by a grandmother who saw me when no one else did. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt quiet. Free. Sometimes the loudest revenge isn't a scream. It's the sound of your own footsteps leaving the room. It's the trust document that says no when you're tired of saying it yourself. It's the grandmother who loved you enough to make sure you'd never have to give away the life you built. I learned something that day. Silence doesn't protect anyone. It just teaches people how small they can make you. And family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about who sees you, who values you, who protects you, even from beyond the grave. If you've ever been the one holding your family together while they tore you apart, I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments. Have you ever had to walk away from people who were supposed to love you? And after hearing my story, what would you have done? The truth is, you don't owe anyone a smaller version of yourself just to keep the peace. Real love doesn't demand your sacrifice as proof. Real love doesn't drain you. And sometimes, the people who truly love you are the ones who make sure you're protected long after they're gone.